Golf fans, welcome to another episode of Podcast in Regulation. I'm your host RP. I know it's been a while. We got a lot to cover between old bet sheets and keeping track and keeping tabs of the one and done / office pool. I'd say it's been about 5 weeks where I've gone through random things where I was too busy, but it also coincided with some of the weeks where it was just PGA, and you guys know my feelings about PGA. I absolutely will participate in some of the bets and of course my pool, but overall I like covering the other two more so, and with that there were some weeks where they were thin or weren't even playing, especially with a week like the Masters where that pretty much takes over everything. So I did get to catch that, but over the 5 weeks I also mentioned that I was sick, but the one almost full week I was sick, the following week I still had no voice, so couldn't do that. And then to make matters worse, I was surprised with tickets to Joe Coy here in Denver, so ended up doing that, and I lost my voice over that. So between no voice and some of the coughing fits, I had actually gotten through 2 podcasts that week, but between the cutting and editing, it really didn't sound very good. And to make honestly the back end of it as well, with some of the ambient noise that I run, you notice that I run some of the music in the background. It was just all choppy and it sounded horrible by the time I got through it. And obviously that's my standard of it. Maybe it wouldn't have sounded so bad had I just put it out, but regardless, you would have been able to follow my picks on Instagram and X at Pod in Regulation, or you could have followed the Facebook fan page Podcast in Regulation. So let's get into it. We got to go all the way back. Like I said, probably about 4 to maybe even 5 weeks ago. We have the Valspar, the Porsche Singapore Open, and the Valero, as well as the Ford Championship, Bet Sheet, Hero Indian Open, as well as the Houston Open to cover. And then this week, only 2 real things going on. Well, I guess 3. I may actually add the Live Golf Korea onto the bet sheet, as well as the CJ Cup. We'll have some bets on that one. And then we have the, what is it? LPGA is, it's a Desert Championship. It's the Black Desert Championship. So we'll get into all that. But first things first, let's cover all the bets from previous weeks just so that we're caught up and are all on the same page. Again, hopefully you won some money, but at the same time, you know I'm not a professional gambler. You've seen it before. I've had some really great weeks, and I've also had kind of that neutralizing cold weeks altogether where you win a few, but overall, you know, give or take 10 to 20 bucks, you'll take that as kind of a win. So yeah, let's get into it. Starting off with the Valspar, Corey Connors was my only bet. It was a $6.75 enhanced payout, as well as he was my choice for the one and done office pool pick. And let's see where he fared. Corey Connors rounded us up $245,000 and $245,775. So that was what we chalked up for the office pool. Nothing else there. So the other tournament going on was the Porsche Singapore Open. We had Jaden Shaper in a top 40 position at minus 120 for $39.50. That was a miss. He finished in 68, so he made the cut, but definitely didn't make any moves. And shockingly enough, with the odds and with how he had been playing, kind of a disappointment, especially as much as I put on him. I wasn't looking to make a lot, but at the very least, make something on that 39. It was minus 120, so it would have been a good, I wouldn't say hefty, but it would have been a nice return. Now, moving on to the top 30 of the Porsche, we had Dan Brown at $850 for a plus 50 payout. That was a miss. We had Wenye Ding, who's been really good for us, and he continues to be this week, or this particular week as well. $9.50 with the odds set at minus 105. We got back $18.55. And then again, kind of a 1-1. We win a top 20 with Brandon Robinson Thompson at plus 230 and a $4.25 bet. So payout was $14.03. And then we missed the Sam Bairstow. Obviously, they weren't quite thinking he would end up within the top 20, and I mean, the odds reflected it, but he wasn't too far off. He just had one really not so great day. It was a $5 bet at plus 150, and he finished 43rd. So there's that miss. And then top 10, Jordan Smith. I was ready to start really counting on him to, I would say, round the corner. He's played okay, but I was expecting him to really start warming up at this point of the season. It was a $7.75 bet for plus 320, so even the book didn't really see him as any sort of threat to be there, but he finished 28th. So again, he's kind of teetering in that area week in, week out, and of course he's had a couple decent finishes higher than that. Then we had the top 5. Again, went 50-50 here. Tom McKibben at $9 for a plus 375 set odd. It finished returning with $42.75. So great tournament for him. That worked out really well. And Paul Casey, another live golfer, taking him in the top 5. It was only a $5.50 bet, but the payout would have been plus 425. He finishes 36th. Nothing bad or good necessarily about his tournament. Pretty consistent, but he never had a day where he went really low. So everyone was seeming to lap him in that sense. And then the other bet that I had for that was Haotong Lee finishing as the top Asian. It was a $6.75 bet at plus 425. And he was the 3rd highest ranked Asian for this tournament. And then last but not least, we had, that actually does it for the week of Wednesday, April 9th. So we'll move on to the larger bet sheet, which you would have seen a normal setup on Twitter and Instagram for the Ford Championship, Hero Indian Open, and Houston Open. So kind of tallying this up for the Valspar. Overall, I had $102.50 on the table. Payout was $75.33, meaning we lost $27.17. So not too bad, especially with the Jaden Shaper. That actually kind of haunts me a little bit. And the total bankroll at this point is $1,250.95. To go along with the record for the week, it was 3-7. So we are looking at 39-75. So recap of the bet sheet this week. It's going to cover the Ford Championship, Hero Indian Open, and Houston Open, like I had mentioned. We're going to start with the Ford Championship. We had 3 bets for the women to finish in the top 10. We had Ayaka Furue at a $20 bet plus 190. She missed that one, surprisingly enough. She had been playing well. She's been really consistent, and she finishes T17, so nothing to scoff about. But certainly had higher hopes for her. Another one kind of in the same fashion has had a really good solid season so far. Miyu Yamashita. It was a $5 bet at plus 300. She actually misses the cut outright. She goes 74-72, so didn't even give herself a chance there. And then I had Sarah Smelzel at $5 for a plus 925. She finishes T17, so did just as well as the Yakufurue. Just I was hoping for a little more juice from that one, especially with those odds set for her, because she has been playing well even past this one, you'll notice in the next few weeks. Top 5 bets, Nelly Korda, $11 for a plus 225. That was a complete miss for her. She finishes T22, so by her standards, by what we expect of her, definitely lower, but go figure. You're due for one of those every once in a while, and that's not a bad finish overall for anyone, so she'll take that. Unfortunately, we just don't hit. We had Alim Kim at $9.50 for a plus 725. She finishes T13. And Lydia Ko at $9.50 for a plus 350 bet. Just fell out. She had one day where she didn't go quite as low as all her others. She finishes T6, so just outside of that. And then the first round leaders, this is where we do count this as one bet. If it's hit, it's a big one. If it's a miss, I'd rather just kind of clump it all together and look at it as one bet. Rio Takeda plus, we won't get into the odds of this, but they're pretty high ranging. But Rio Takeda, $3.50. Nelly Korda, $3.75. Hyoju Kim at $5. And Alim Kim at $3.25. All missed. One of them came pretty close, but obviously close isn't enough. So that does it for the Ford. Moving on to the Hero Indian Open. We had 2 picks for the top 40. Dion Hermesice at $10.75 was plus 175. That was a hit. He finishes way higher than that. Finishes at 17th. So the payout was $29.56. Brandon Wu kind of surprised me, missing the cut outright at $7.50 for a plus 130. So kind of within that range of minus 150 to plus 150. You kind of imagine that they're going to be closer than that, but miscut for him. Top 30, we had Wilco Nienaber plus 150 for $5.50. He finishes well outside of that at 52nd. And then Joe Dean, who may be on the downside, kind of trending in that direction at the very least compared to how he started off the season and how he had started to win us money from the get. But he is 114th, and that was a $28.50 bet. So it was plus 140. Wouldn't have been a big payout, but it would have been a nice one, especially with the trust he's kind of earned from me and my betting tendencies as of late. Top 10 picks had Sam Bairstow at $9 even for plus 350. He finishes 99th. And then, Brandon Robinson Thompson, $7.25 at plus 450. He finishes outside of that, but still in 17th. So he has had a really good season. Probably would be a safer bet should I lower my expectations for him. Started off really well, a lot of high finishes, and now he's kind of wavered a little bit, but certainly hasn't fallen off for us. So we can keep going back to that well. It's just a matter of, can we set our sights a little lower for him and possibly still make money with good odds if we were to, say, take him in the top 40s and even 30s and just live with the consequences of having to put more down to win more money on him. And then the one hit is the top 5 for Adrian Sadier, $8.75 for a plus 700 payout, and we got $70 in return. So big saving grace there based on how I think I went 0 on the Ford Championship. Yep, I did. I went 0, and I only hit 2 bets on the Hero Indian Open, but that was a big one. Great odds in our favor. I mean, everything was pointing in the right direction for Adrian Sadier, and kind of went with the gut feeling there. It certainly paid off. Last but not least, we had the Houston Open. Had Tony Finau with an enhanced win, only taking $5.50 on him, but the payout would have been plus 3,700. That was a miss. He was obviously, you noticed the trend. I also take my one and dones to win outright. So he was my office pool pick, and he registers 51,911 points, or dollars, depending on how you want to look at it. So kind of a fail there. But overall, not too bad. I really needed that Sadier pick, which helped quite a bit. Overall record for this week specifically, was 2-12, so it pushes the record to 41.87. Someone had mentioned that my record this time last year was nowhere near this. So to be half of my to win half back of my losses, I'll kind of take it. I'm a little less than that now with this current bet sheet. So on the table for this specific week, we had $158.25. The total payout was $99.56. That's crazy because 70 of it came from that top 5 pick. So total loss of $58.69. So our bankroll is still above our original. We're still at $1,192.26, but slowly dwindling. See if we can catch a heater on this third week that I have out here. Well, no, actually, now that I'm looking at it, I got my bet sheet ready this week, and I obviously covered and calculated everything from the past 2 bet sheets in the last few weeks, but I did not get to do all the math for last week's picks, so I'll get back to you on that. But we'll just jump into the picks for this week, and then we'll tally up everything. Maybe I just add that on as a different podcast later this weekend. I didn't realize I had only done part of it, so there's quite a bit still yet to map out and kind of figure into the record as well as the overall bankroll. So we're just going to get into this week with Live Golf Korea, CJ Cup, and the Black Desert Championship. So since we're going to do that, I'm going to have to save a little time just to put up an extra podcast on later this weekend to recap the previous week. But without going into too much detail, let's get into the Black Desert Championship. Honestly, we'll just jump into the bets. I'm going top 10. We're going sisters. We're going Shisato Iwai and her sister Aki Iwai at plus 300 and plus 280 respectively. And then another top 10 to round it out is going to be Alim Kim at plus 190. Don't know what I'm going to be putting on them as of right now, but you can check that out on Twitter, Instagram, and all the other pages probably within the hour. Generally have that up first. Still got to edit this, so you'll be hearing this after you see those finish up. And then top 5 picks I'm throwing out are going to be Hyoju Kim at plus 525, Heiran Ryu at plus 350, and Runing Yin at plus 390. I think we're going to catch her on the up. She's played fairly consistently throughout the year. She started off with a couple top 20s, then had a couple 30s and 50s, but with last week's, I think she was T2. I don't think it was so low. I honestly think this is probably a good spot. We haven't talked about her much this year other than keeping track of her and where she's at in her game. I don't necessarily ever think of a fall off with her. It's just a matter of can we catch her when she starts to warm up. And I think this is a good spot. You just came off a major. You were T2, whether it was T2 or Solo 2, I can't remember. But coming into this one, I think it's a top 5. I think she may have found a little consistency there. I'm not going to say she found something. Sometimes it's just a matter of you still playing your best and whether the course accepts it for the score or not. So I think it's a good spot. Catching that early. And then we're going with 2 bets for a 72-hole match. It's going to be Charlie Hull versus Alim Kim. I'm taking Alim Kim at minus 120. And then we are going Alison Corpus versus Heijin Choi. And I'm thinking this is going to end up in a tie. I think both of them end up somewhere in the 15, 16, maybe 17 range, which means Alison Corpus plays about where you expect her to, and then Heijin Choi may fall back a little bit, considering the last 2 weeks have been pretty solid and pretty good to her. And then looking at these, I think this is pretty much good enough bets as soon as I add the Byron Nelson. So I'm making executive decision right now. I'm going to leave Live Golf Korea alone. If anything, you may see, and I'll obviously put them on any and all of the sites if I live bet the Live Golf event for Korea this week. But as for the Byron Nelson, we're going Ben Griffin as the one and done, as well as an enhanced win at plus 3,700. And then I am betting, kind of prop betting here, we're going first round scores to go over 68.5 strokes. I'm taking Rika Hoey to go over, plus 100, Ryu Hisatsune, plus 100, and Jordan Spieth at plus 125. So they're obviously thinking that, track history and familiarity with the course, Spieth will be fine. But I don't know. Day one, we'll see. I've been up and down on him this year. I think I've taken him twice in some sort of bet, one way or another this season. But at least day one, I think he probably shoots about a 69 or 70. So respectable, but I don't think he'll catch that course off guard this time around. So if I'm going to wrap up, I'm just going to say that we'll just stick with the LPGA and the PGA this week. There's nothing on DP World Tour, so didn't have to really work up a lather for that. There was nothing going on. They do pick up again next week. So we'll leave this here, and you will see and hear another podcast, but it strictly will be just the makeup of the calculations of everything from last week, since I only did part of it. Guys, no on the clock this week. Good luck. Again, take these picks as you want them. Fade me or, play on the same side. But either way, good luck to you, and I will talk to you again this week, and then we'll recap again next week on Wednesday. Hey, thanks guys. Appreciate you. Again, Podcast and Regulation is the fan page, at Pod and Regulation on Instagram and Twitter. Again, I'm your host, RP. This is Podcast and Regulation. See you guys later.